Okay, I think we can get started. Hi, welcome to today's webinar. Very excited to be talking to everyone. I'm joining you in San Francisco. I'm normally in New York, so I'm very happy to be here. We're at the Matrix offices. They're one of our investors who led our seed and Series A round a few years ago. So thank you to the Matrix team for sharing their space with us. And very excited to be sharing our latest launch with you, data visualizations. It's a really exciting launch for Parabola that lets our customers actually build shareable reports from their workflow data. So today's session will be 20 minutes roughly plus Q&A. If you have questions, you can use the chat and we'll get to them at the end. We'll be emailing the session out to everyone afterwards. And I'm Olivia Berger. I'm a product marketer. I joined Parabola a few months ago and it's been great. And Brian?
I'm Brian. I'm a product manager over here at Parabola. I joined over 6 years ago, and I'm super excited to be talking about these visualization features with you all.
Yep, one of our first employees, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So here's what we're gonna go through today. I'll share a quick overview of what Parabola does and why we're excited about this new data visualizations capability. And then Brian will talk through the product and give you an actual demo, and we will get to the Q&A afterwards. So for anyone who is not familiar, Parabola is an all-in-one data tool that lets you accelerate your most complex operations across your business. So think of your most manual data processes that might require using data from multiple sources. Parabola can help you automate collecting, manipulating, and reporting on all of that data. So we are built, you can go to the next slide. We're built for non-technical teams who typically work in operations. So it might be someone who's really in the weeds on what's happening in the day-to-day and needs access to different types of data to make decisions. But you might be stuck doing things a really manual way because your data team or your engineering team doesn't have the resources to help with those ad hoc data requests. So they might have a really long queue of requests to support across the business, and they might not get to yours when you need it. So we built Parabola because it helps let you take your data matters into your own hands. So you can pull data from anywhere, manipulate it in a really intuitive drag and drop interface, and build out a flow chart. You can pull data from different sources. We support over 1,000 data sources. And we have customers who are pulling data from more structured data sources like Snowflake, Shopify, NetSuite, et cetera. Also have a lot of customers who have to gather data at scale from a much less structured data source like an Excel file or email, even a really unwieldy, messy PDF. You can use AI and Parabola to parse information from really unstructured sources like that. That's one of my favorite use cases. It's pretty cool. And Parabola lets you layer in all the data in one platform and transform it really easily using spreadsheet logic. So if you know how to use a spreadsheet, then you know how to use Parabola. It's really intuitive for anyone who spends time in Excel. And building workflows in Parabola lets you document processes in a really standardized way so you can share it with others at your company. So now, drum roll, we're really excited that you can build and share data visualizations directly in Parabola. So we built this to help non-technical teams, like I mentioned, take charge of their day-to-day processes, and being able to build reports is a really important piece of that puzzle. So before this release, Parabola users might have exported their data into a BI tool or spreadsheet to share reporting dashboards. But this is a much easier way to share your data because your reports live in the same platform as your logic. It just makes the reporting process a lot more flexible. So having these visualizations in Parabola helps you share what you're working on. We've seen some of our customers who started using this in beta share financial dashboards with their CEO or inventory reports with the broader team. To help contextualize what they're working on and elevate their work internally within an org. So when you share these reports, you're not also just sharing the visualization, but you can the person you're sharing it with can double click and understand the logic behind the data that they're looking at, which is really cool. So very excited about this launch, and I think it's really groundbreaking. Very excited for Brian to walk you through it, just what the product looks like. So he's going to share a demo of freight audit use case, which if you're not familiar with freight audit, it's a common use case among some of our retail and freight customers. Anyone who ships product, you can recoup costs by looking at discrepancies within a given period. And we've heard some of our customers cite savings in the 6 figures from doing their freight audit in Parabola. So it's really cool. Very excited to hand it over to Brian.
Let's do it. I'm very excited to be talking to you about these visualization features. Like Olivia said, we're going to talk through a freight audit report. And honestly, I probably would not have known what a freight audit report was about a year ago, but now that we've helped customers build things like this out, it's very clear why this is such an important report to build. And visualizations play such a key role in something like this because it helps you take large amounts of data and identify outliers and look for key trends within it very quickly and tells a story about that data. So let me go ahead and flip over to that demo screen. Cool. So here we are looking at a freight audit report with some visualizations built into it. And it'll be pretty clear why visualizations are important to a flow like this just by scrolling down and taking a look at what we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down through some of these visualizations. Starting at the top, we have some key metrics about the shipments that were the freight audit that we're performing here. So we've got just around 20,000 shipments, $121,000 in charges, and around $3,000 of total discrepancies already identified by this flow. So just to dig into this a little bit further, that total charges number is actually not quite formatted the way that I'd like it to be formatted. So just to show off some of the power of these new features, I can go ahead and format that really quickly for us. So if I open this table and chart options menu, I can see how these featured metrics were actually calculated. Scrolling to that middle one, we can see that we are summing up our base charge column, but it shows that it's just a number. So by clicking here, I can actually switch that into a currency. And lightning quick, that has already been updated to a currency. Nice and easy, I can go ahead and save that. So that anyone else who looks at this report sees the data in the right format. All right, let's keep going. We've got 2 bar charts, discrepancies by carrier and discrepancies per service. So already, just at a glance, I can see that there's one bar that's much different than the rest of the bars. This DHL rate difference bar looks like we have almost $3,000 of discrepancies with DHL. And if we look at the top number over here, 3,200, that means that the vast majority of our discrepancies are coming from DHL. So with a 20,000 row data set, within 30 seconds, I can already see that DHL is going to be the problem here, and probably the thing that I need to hunt down with this data. So looking at discrepancies by service, we can see that we've broken down this bar even further. But before we dig into these a little bit more, maybe we want to drill into DHL specifically. So I can do that by going to the top of this flow into our quick filters area and clicking to add a quick filter to this flow. So if I want to look at DHL specifically, I can choose my carrier and set it to is equal to DHL. Okay, so just like that, very quickly, I filtered down every single visualization in this report to just show DHL. We can see we've got a little under 2,000 shipments, $11,000 in charges, and that $2,900 of discrepancies. If we look at the other visualizations, we can see we've honed in on just DHL. We can see our rate card amount. So this is the amount that DHL told us that they would charge us for these shipments based on their weight, where they're going, what service is being used. But we can see that in actuality from our invoice data, we've been charged $11,000. So that discrepancy is that difference between these two lines, which is expressed by this purple bar and then broken down by the green one on the right. So breaking this down by service, we can see that ground has the lion's share of our discrepancies. Now that just might be because we ship most of our products via ground, or it might mean that ground is being miscalculated. So already just through looking at these visualizations, I have a few threads that I can pull on and a few leads to go figure out where are these discrepancies coming from? Is it on our side? Is it DHL? And we can pretty easily recoup that cost. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this filter. And we can see how fast things update here, which is great. And let's go look at what the flow logic is to actually create these charts. After all, Parabola is not just a visualization tool. It's not just another BI tool, but in fact, you can have all of your logic housed in here as well. So by going up to the top of the flow, I can click on this preview button to actually preview the flow logic that's running. If I zoom in here, just at a glance, I can see that we're pulling data from a few Excel files. These are rate cards that are coming from our carriers. We're pulling in some invoices, and we're ultimately pushing this out into 2 Parabola tables. Parabola tables are the basis for all of our visualization features, this new launch of features. And anyone that comes into this flow can answer their own questions as to how are these numbers calculated. You could audit every single step of the process. So let's say I want to see what is happening in this calculation step. And I can see how we're actually figuring out what the rate difference and rate difference percentage is within this flow. The best part about building in Parabola is that you are building documentation into the process while you're building the automation itself. So at the end of the process, you have a complete automation, but you also have documentation as to how and why you performed each action at each step of the way. That's a lot more clear than using a spreadsheet. So if I go ahead and close that preview out, the last thing we can do here is just build out another visualization to show you how fast and easy this is. So we had 2 tables. So let's go down to that second table. We have a freight audit discrepancies only table. So this is already inside the flow, been filtered down to just the discrepancies. And let's say that we want to create a line chart to see what's our discrepancy over time. Starting with the table, we can click to add another view. That just creates another tab here. And then from there, we can start to modify this view and add some visualization components to it. So by opening my table and chart options menu, I can then open up my visualizations options. You can see we have featured metrics. Those were those numbers that we saw at the very top of this flow. And then a slew of charting options. In this case, we're looking for a line chart. So if I click on line chart, I can set my x-axis to the ship date. And then my y-axis can be that rate difference sum. You can see the chart is already calculating faster, and I can click the buttons. And if we go ahead and save that, we will see our line chart, hopefully. Maybe we just need to make a small adjustment here. Cool. So now that we have a proper color on the line chart, we can see our discrepancies over time. But this is our total discrepancies. This is everyone across the board. And to re-remind ourselves, we can see that FedEx had no discrepancies, but UPS did. So this line isn't exactly the fidelity that I want it to be. So if we go back in here, we can go ahead and categorize this line. Each charting type that you have will either let you categorize and stack, or just stack these series. So by categorizing it, I can actually break that line apart into each carrier. So as this updates from what it thought I wanted. Okay, there we go. We've got DHL on the top and then UPS on the bottom. So that line's been split apart into multiple carriers. This is looking good, but if we look at the report above, each of these visualizations is laid out in a nice tile format. And down here, we're a bit more compact. This is in a tabbed layout. So we can adjust and unify this by going over to the layout menu and switching the tiles. So we've got that first view, which is our raw data. This is all of our discrepancies. That's probably useful to keep around. And then below that, we have a tile for our chart. This is looking a little small, so we can use that formatting menu again to make this full width, and we can even make it taller. We'll give that line a little bit more space to breathe. So just like that, we can add more visualizations to this report. And once a report like this is built, there's a couple of next steps that are probably prudent. The first one is to make sure that this data is always up to date. A key component of all Parabola flows is that they can be scheduled. So if we actually just go up here to the scheduling bar, we can add a recurring schedule to this flow. Once per day is pretty good for reports that don't need to update that often, but I tend to like every hour for my reporting needs. I can go ahead and save that schedule. Now I know that when I share this out, anyone who looks at this flow will probably have a pretty up-to-date view of the data. If they need it to be even more up-to-date, they can simply go to the top and run the flow itself. Speaking of sharing this out, the next best thing to do here is actually share this report out with my coworkers. So at the top, the easiest way to do that is to just click on our share button and to make sure that the team has at least viewer permissions on this, which it already does. I could upgrade that to editing permission if I want my teammates to be able to edit this flow, or I can share it with specific folks. Let's say Graciela should be able to edit this, and I can just hit save. The other way to share this is I can go down to a specific visualization. Let's say I need to send my colleague this visualization that breaks it down per service. There's a share button here that I can click, and I can copy a link to this view. This link will directly link anyone that clicks on it down to this view. And that's how we build visualizations in Parabola. Back to you, Olivia.
Cool. Yeah, doesn't get old. I love watching it. So if anyone has questions, I see a couple. Feel free to ask them. We can get to them now. So here's a question for Brian. Are visualizations a separate add-on module, or is it part of the package?
Visualizations are part of the core product. So everyone who has a Parabola account has access to visualizations. We heard a lot of customer feedback early on that this should be a pillar of our product, and we agree with it. So anyone that has an account has access to this.
Yep, very, very cool. You can get started today if you're a customer. So another question about roadmap, always a hot topic. What does your roadmap look like? Anything that you can share about the roadmap?
Well, we already have some beta feedback from early customers adopting this. So we have lots of optimizations that we're looking to make to these visualizations. And then beyond that, we're also looking to optimize tabular visualizations. So sometimes you do need to look at that data in a table. And so things like conditional formatting or modifying which columns are showing or how they're frozen in place, that can make reports much easier to digest when there are tables of data. So you can look forward to that coming out hopefully by the end of the year.
Yep. And then I can take this one, just another question about how Parabola is different from a BI tool, which you touched on a bit. But what we've heard is that, BI tools are great, but they can be very rigid. So changes to reporting in a BI tool might require the data or engineering team. It's really hard to build a one-off report in there. Having your logic in the same platform as your reporting is a real differentiator for Parabola, and I think it's just going to make it a lot easier for folks to report more effectively. Here we have got another question. Is there going to be a difference in pricing between people who are building with Parabola and people who are just viewing dashboards within the same org? I think that's...
I can take that one.
Yeah, go for it.
We do have a concept of folks that can just view within your account, so they won't be able to make any edits, they won't make any changes. They can make small changes to the dashboards that are just private to them, so they can search things, download data, stuff like that. Those viewer users are typically less than a full editor seat, but it kind of depends on what pricing package you're on. So the best thing to do, I think, would be to reach out to us after this. You can reach out to our support if you are interested in adding viewers to your account, but they do tend to be less costly.
And then can we save the visualization as an image for other integrations to pick up and utilize?
So right now, there's no way to save an image of a visualization outside of like a screenshot. But we do have some potential features on the roadmap to download a PDF of this entire report, as well as to send out automatic emails that will include something along those lines. So we are thinking about that.
And then what are some of the other use cases that you've seen people use visualizations for?
Visualizations are pretty flexible. So we've seen folks build executive dashboards, revenue analysis, inventory consolidation reports, cost of goods sold management. Even internally, we use it on the product team for looking at our product metrics. Sales and marketing teams have similar dashboards as well. So you can really use it for a whole slew of things.
Yep. I think that is, we're at time, but if anyone has any other questions, please email help@parabola.io. And thanks for being a great audience. This was a lot of fun. Hope to be in touch soon. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.